And welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the GEEKING POETIC Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. This spooky orange pumpkin over here to my right and your left is my co-host. It is none other than
Megan Guess.
And we are here to celebrate Halloween. Yes, I think every year since we started this show, we've done some sort of Halloween episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal around these parts. So the problem, though, with that is every year we talk about it and we're like, well, what are we going to talk about this year? Because we've covered it all. I mean, we've done
quite a bit.
Yeah, we've done ghosts, like we've done our favorite like ghost movies. We've done Stephen King movies. We've done just general like our favorite scary movies. We've told scary stories. We've done all that stuff. So we were like, well, what could we talk about that we haven't already covered? And then you were the one that came up with this idea, and you said basically like, well, what about the other movies we always like to watch at Halloween time?
Mm-hmm. The ones that are like unconventional. You don't think like, boom, it's Halloween.
Right.
But these are like go-tos.
For us, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. Like this is very personal. It's not necessarily movies that you all out there are going to go, yeah, well, okay.
Like obviously, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't watch that ever at Halloween, but there might be some of you that do. And if you have unusual or untypical movies that you watch every Halloween time, you need to let us know in the comments below. So make sure you leave comments, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell down there. Do all that stuff because we want to hear from you. That's basically the whole reason we're doing this channel, is because we like the interaction with all of you out there. But what we decided to do, the way we're going to approach this, is we each picked our top 5 favorite, unlikely, untypical Halloween movies. And these are movies that just traditionally we find ourselves always being in the mood to watch when Halloween comes.
Yep.
But they're not necessarily Halloween movies. Yeah, exactly. They're not even necessarily horror or anything like that. Because I mean, we love horror, like it's certain kinds of horror. We love things. I love old like Universal monsters, you know, like Frankenstein and Dracula and all that. And you like some scary things, although you tend to like a little bit lighter fare.
I do.
Haunted Mansion and things like that. But then we like things like The Conjuring verse, The Nun and Annabelle and Insidious and those kind of movies. So we do get a fair amount of scary stuff. Stephen King movies, we've talked plenty about Stephen King. And that kind of stuff is always great, but we need some other movies to sort of break it up, you know?
Halloween's a long month.
Right, exactly. And sometimes you want something on to just lighten the mood, or something that's cool to have on in the background while you're decorating or carving pumpkins or whatever it is. And this list is going to make up those 5 for each of us. And then, we'll debate about it a little bit.
Right.
We'll see. But Meg, why don't you go ahead and get started? Why don't you tell everybody what your number 5 choice is?
All right, I'll do that. So, starting off my list of unusual Halloween choices is The Burbs, which might not scream Halloween to most people, but it's the combination of dark humor and crazy characters that makes this one a must-watch for me. I love the premise of the neighborhood coming together because of this one creepy house and its inhabitants. I'm sure many of us can relate or are familiar with having a neighborhood with that one weird, creepy house that everyone gossips about or spies on. Not to mention the nosy neighbors and how ridiculous people can be when it comes to rumors and speculation. Overall, this movie has an ominous yet funny plot and a vibe with plenty of dark humor and hilarious scenes, thanks to an awesome cast who make this movie such a great choice for me when I just want a few laughs on Halloween.
Yeah, gosh, that's such an interesting choice. I haven't seen that movie in years.
Yeah.
but it makes sense. I mean, it does have that kind of vibe to it.
Right?
It's pretty...
You know, there's dead bodies and mysterious crap going on.
Weird house and all that. Yeah, I mean...
Creepy neighbors.
Absolutely.
We've all had that neighborhood where the house, and you got to walk on the other side of the street to get around it because you're not walking anywhere near it.
Right.
It has like mysterious random shoes in the lawn. I'm thinking of a very specific one.
Yeah, you're getting
in
very
Cleveland,
specific.
Oklahoma, I had to walk to school and walk. I would always cross the street, go around it, and then cross back over to walk to school.
Okay.
Ugh. Yep. This one gets me every time.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so you can relate to it even more. So that's why it kind of has a creepy factor, even though it's funny. See, and that's exactly it. And there's going to be personal connections for me too with some of these ones that I'm going to talk about because, outwardly to other people that may not seem like an obvious choice for a movie during Halloween. But because of the way I'm connected to it and the way it's going up here in my noggin and everything, that's why it works for me at this time of year. So that's cool. All right. So Burbs is number 5 for you. All right. So moving on to my number 5. My choice for this is a movie going all the way back to, I think, around 1974 when this came out. And it is a Mel Brooks movie known as Young Frankenstein. So this is a film that I always get inspired to watch at this time of year, mainly because my favorite horror movies to watch during Halloween are, like I said earlier, old Universal films, if you know what I mean, like Universal Monsters. The black and white classics from the 1930s and on, like Frankenstein and Dracula and Bela Lugosi and the Black Cat and so on, those kind of movies. To me, Young Frankenstein is Mel Brooks' homage to those old horror classics. But obviously, with a huge amount of humor and tongue-in-cheek bits mixed into it. But that being said, the look and overall vibe of Young Frankenstein just fits in perfectly with Halloween. So when I want to watch something funny during Halloween, like Young Frankenstein is my go-to choice.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic Halloween movie.
I'm kind of surprised. Did you put this on your list? Spoilers?
I felt like that was more of a obvious one for me.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Frankenstein goes with Halloween.
Yeah, I guess so. This is probably the most obvious one then on my list in terms of being still like a horror kind of thing. But because it's a spoof and because it's so lighthearted, I just felt like it's not one that I see a lot of other people talk about. Okay. But maybe they do. Maybe people are going to be like, oh, dude, that's such an obvious Halloween one. And if you do think that way, again, let us know in the comments because I'd love to know that.
Yeah. Put the candle back.
All right, Meg. Moving on to number 4s. What is your number 4 choice?
My number 4 is a silly, everything could possibly go wrong movie. Can't go wrong with it. So my number 4 movie is Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, okay.
This is a movie that is just over the top and absolutely ridiculous, but incredibly damn hilarious at the same time. The chemistry of the two characters is great. Their antics are so dumb and disastrous, especially to all the other characters that keep getting killed throughout the entire movie. And this is one that is more violent than I typically normally would go for, but the way it's done here and the hilarity of it all makes it a great choice for me to watch at Halloween. Since I'm not really into slasher films or stuff that's ultra violent, when a movie like this comes along, it combines good dose of humor and ridiculousness to it. It really ticks all the boxes for me in a positive way. And it's certainly got more than enough darkness and violence to qualify for prime horror movie experience. But it's the silly, ridiculous nature of this entire film that makes this one that I really get drawn to every time.
Yeah.
And it's such a great fit for Halloween for me for those reasons.
Yeah. I see, to me, I feel like this is probably one of the more obvious ones,
Really?
kind of like you were saying about Young Frankenstein. I feel like this one, yeah, I could see people wanting to watch this at Halloween time, even though it's like a ridiculous kind of fun, silly movie, but it's still, it's still a pretty violent movie. It's still got that whole vibe going on. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's a great choice because it isn't too typical. It isn't like super obvious, but it fits.
It fits.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 4, I have a feeling is going to be a bit more of a left field kind of suggestion because it's a movie that I feel like people associate more with other holidays than Halloween for some reason, but I'm talking about none other than the classic Wizard of Oz.
Interesting.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Wizard of Oz. So I feel like most of the people I know, and even myself to a degree, tend to associate this, if you think about it of a holiday kind of context, people seem to either think of this as being like an Eastery watch or a Christmas time watch. And I think that some of that has to do with because they would show that most people saw this on TV, let's face facts,
Right.
and they would show Wizard of Oz at like right around Easter, or they would show it right around Christmas a lot of times. And I know I would watch it around those times when I was growing up. So I can see why it would have that connotation. But I feel like for me, given the way the whole overall vibe is, because Wizard of Oz, yeah, at my age, it's definitely not a scary movie to me. But when I was a kid, I thought the movie was kind of spooky. The witch was scary.
Oh, yeah.
Those stupid flying monkeys were really scary to me. There was a lot of just like ominous vibe to this movie. And then even like the colors, and it just kind of makes me think of candy. It makes me think of Halloween costumes. I would always see people dressed up like characters from Oz at Halloween time. So this just ended up becoming one of those Halloween watches for me. And I think it's a great movie. I think if you haven't watched Wizard of Oz at Halloween time, especially if you have young kids or something, like give it a shot. Like try putting it on, especially if they haven't seen it yet. Like make it a Halloween movie for them, because I think it can work like that. If you want to show them something that's not too scary and not, you're not going to put on like a John Carpenter or Stephen King movie for a little kid, but you could put on Wizard of Oz and it's still going to have that right vibe to it. And it's a good one, again, to have on in the background if you're like decorating or doing carving or baking cookies or something like that. That's one that I feel like really hits home for me at Halloween time.
Absolutely. I think that's a great choice.
Okay.
Plenty of witches and magic going on there.
Yeah, exactly. And it just has like a whole like vibe to it, even when they're walking through the forest and those trees that are throwing the apples at them. Why'd you take my apples?
Creepy forest.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's my number 4. Again, it's untypical, but that's the whole point of this.
All right. So my number 3 might be a little more obvious in some ways.
Okay.
But at the same time, maybe not quite.
Okay.
Which is why I made my list.
Okay.
So my number 3 is Zombieland.
Oh, gosh. I remember when we watched this for the first time. All right. Yeah. Zombieland. I could see that.
So as I've stated before, I'm not the biggest fan of gory horror films or even zombie films for that matter.
Yeah, me neither.
But when you take that subject matter and make it humorous and silly, as well as putting together a top-notch cast, I am all in. This movie has a dark and twisted story and subject matter that makes it perfect for Halloween viewing. But the zany humor brought by the people like Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray, Jesse Eisenberg, and Emma Stone makes this a great choice for when I want something maybe just a little bit morbid, but also something that'll have me laughing all the way through it. I love all the rules that they come up with, basically not to die through the entire movie. And I love the dynamic between the characters all being stuck together in this totally messed up world and not being sure if they could truly trust each other, yet finding their way back to one another. It's just entertaining and a perfect choice for me when I'm in the mood for something dark, but hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, this is perfect because it's not one that I would necessarily think of.
Okay.
It's not Halloween, it's not Friday the 13th or, even Annabelle or something. Yeah. But
it's zombies.
Right, when you say it, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. That totally fits." Although I think when we watched it for the first time, it was like in the middle of the winter or something like that.
Yeah, something. I could watch it, anytime, but I'm drawn to it Halloween.
Sure.
It's the zombies. I'm not big into zombies, so this is my kind of a zombie movie.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's a really good choice. So, okay, yeah, Zombieland. All right, that's your number 3.
Yep.
All right, well, my number 3 is definitely nowhere near as close as Zombieland in terms of feeling Halloween-y to most people, but let me explain myself. So my number 3 choice is possibly my favorite sci-fi movie of all time.
Okay.
And that is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I should have saw that coming.
Yeah, I'm sure some people would be like, "Oh, he's going to say Alien or something like that," because that is a great Halloween movie, is Alien or Aliens. Both of those are great for Halloween. But I chose Close Encounters, and here's why. It's another one that for some reason at this time of year, I feel compelled to want to watch. Again, it's one of my favorites, so of course there's a lot of times I want to watch it, but it always seems to come up at this time of year. There's something about the vibe of this movie. There's an eeriness to it, and I don't know, I just don't ever seem to want to watch this in like the middle of the summer or at like Christmas or something like that. It always ends up coming up around Halloween that I'm like, ooh, that would be a good one. Because again, it's for when I don't want something that's outright terrifying, but it does have like this certain feel to it. And I also think, honestly, it might have something to do with, because I always watch Poltergeist at Halloween time. Now that's more, I think, of an obvious Halloween movie. But for some reason, when I watch Poltergeist, I get done with that, and then I'm like, ooh, I want to watch Close Encounters now. Like, I don't know if it's the Spielberg connection or something like that, but that's just how it goes. And it does have a certain vibe to it and a certain atmosphere and tension. It's got a beautiful, incredible ending to it. Yeah, it's just, again, I realize a lot of people are going to probably scratch their head at a choice like this and be like, I don't get Halloween out of Close Encounters. Well, again, this is just how it vibes for me. To me, this is like, not even just Halloween, but this is just like an autumn movie. I always want to watch this right around this time of year. And yeah, if it comes on during Halloween, I ain't mad at it. You know, so seriously, have you ever seen this whole movie?
No.
I didn't think so. Oh, see, we got to remedy that.
No, I've seen pieces of it.
Yeah, you got to watch
the entire thing.
Yeah, to really be able to understand what I'm talking about.
As many times as we carve pumpkins and everything, you think you guys would have put that on.
Well, it's because a lot of times when we get together to carve pumpkins, we're like, oh, we got to get caught up on the latest Conjuring-verse movie and stuff. We still have more we haven't seen yet.
I haven't made it through all those. I guess that's true.
Right. But yeah, this is like a really good one to have on kind of in the background. But I want you to be able to sit down and watch it. That is if you don't fall asleep during it, which is probably a big ask, isn't it?
It is. It really is. You got a very comfy couch.
Well, plus Close Encounters is just one of those kind of movies that
mellow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not exciting and interesting, but it's kind of long, and just the atmosphere of it at times, I could see why people would fall asleep to it. But yeah, one of these days, especially if we've got you wired on a few Pepsis or something like that, we need to get you to watch that whole movie, and then we'll see what I'd be curious to see what you think. If you're like, oh yeah, I could see this being a Halloween-y, vibe movie, or if you're just like, I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, it's interesting because I seem like this is an obvious choice, but I think it's an obvious choice because you've talked about it so much.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably
not because I watched it and I think that.
No, exactly.
I think it's just because
I've influenced your view on that. Right. All right. So moving on to number 2, we're getting close to the end here. Yeah. Meg, what is your number 2 choice?
So my number 2 choice is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
And that is Edward Scissorhands.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I could see that.
Yep. Everyone knows my love of Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe just a little bit.
You just got one sitting right there.
And I do love watching that movie during Halloween. But another Burton film that really hits me right in the feels at this time of year is Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
While this movie still has plenty of Burton's type of noir vibe to it, it also has story elements that really appeal to me. I absolutely adore the combination of Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder together. And the sad love story aspect, as well as some of the humorous parts of the film, definitely click for me. I always felt like I could relate and sympathize with Depp's character, and cinematically, it's just a great film to look at. This is just another one of those movies that doesn't really scream Halloween in and of itself, but the combination of romance, darker tones, and Burton's unmistakable gothic style make this a perfect one to come back to at Halloween time. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. I could totally see that. Yeah, this might be another one that I have a feeling to some people they're going to say like, oh, that's an obvious one, because Tim Burton movies in general just lend themselves a lot of times to being Halloween.
That's true, but I feel like this is one of the least obvious.
Right. Yeah, it's not like Nightmare Before Christmas or even Beetlejuice or something like that where you're like, oh, that just screams Halloween. Yeah, this is gothic and, like you said, noir, weird and everything, but it isn't necessarily a Halloween movie. So, yeah, that's a great one. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time. It used to really make me mad. I hated the way everybody treated Edward in that movie.
That's the point.
I know it's the point, but
It makes us so sad.
I know, but it used to make me mad. I just wanted to smack all those people because being like that. But anyway, it is a really good movie. And yeah, I mean, come on, Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder, you can't go wrong there.
Enough said.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on to my number 2, we're going to one that goes way back for me. We're talking something that I saw, probably first saw this when I was maybe 3 years old. And it's probably why it so particularly sits in my head this way, because it's a movie that I went to see around Halloween in the theater. This was back when you could only see these movies in the theater, because again, I'm pretty old, folks. So when I say I saw something when I was 3, we didn't have a VCR. There was no cable, there was no VCR, there certainly was no streaming or anything. You had to go to the theater. And my mom took me, I'm pretty sure, to Land's Theater in Lansing, Illinois, to go see this movie. And what am I talking about? I am talking about Walt Disney's Fantasia.
Yep. I want to hear what you got to say about this.
Okay. Like I was saying, this is one I saw when I was younger, and I've just loved this movie since I was a kid. And there are certain parts of this movie that I just strongly mentally associate with Halloween. Of course, there's the scene with Mickey and the wizard's hat and all of the dancing, marching brooms, creating chaos and stuff. And that fits well enough in the vibe of it all, I suppose. But then there's the main thing is that ending segment, that whole Night on Bald Mountain thing with the dark satanic character looming over the town and playing that music. I mean, that legitimately scared me when I was a kid. I thought that was really frightening, and the animation is great. The music is incredible. I mean, that music has become such a, I don't know, to me it's such a part of Halloween there, and not least of which because we had a show here. I'm always talking about my old TV shows from the 70s and everything. We had a station here in Chicago called, it was Channel 44, WSNS, and there was a show called Monster Rally. And my cousin Russell and I would stay up when we weren't supposed to on Saturday nights, and we would watch Monster Rally. And the music they would use for the in and outs of the commercial breaks was Night on Bald Mountain from Fantasia. So I have that connotation in my head because all those scary movies I watched on Saturday nights with my cousin and hearing that music, and then also having it in my head from seeing Fantasia with that music and so eloquently animated, like the way they did that. I mean, I know you're not a big fan of Fantasia, right?
Nope.
I don't understand.
I think it's basically everything you just described.
Uh-huh.
I saw it when I was really young, and it terrified me.
It creeped you out? Yeah,
and I was like, I don't like this, and I never saw it again.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I get that because it is a trippy movie. You've got that whole scene, which is pretty scary.
Yes, terrifying.
I get it. If you see it when you're really young, it's either going to affect you like you did where you were like, I don't like this, and you stayed away from it. Or it affected me in a way that I became fascinated with it. But also probably because of the whole music aspect of the whole thing. I mean, I'm all about music. So that was one of my earliest musical influences. And it just sticks in my mind as being so scary Halloween-y. That's one that I don't find myself often wanting to watch Fantasia, but at this time of year, it's like, oh yeah, that's perfect to put on, especially because, again, you can put it on in the background since there really isn't much in the way of dialogue. It's all musical sequences. And it just sets a really good vibe. So yeah, that's my number 2. That's a strong number 2 for me. And I'd be really, really curious to know if anybody else out there agrees with me on this one. I have a feeling a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on any of these, but I'd be really curious. You never know. I'd be curious to know if anybody goes like, oh yeah, that's so odd. Like I Halloween time, I always think of that Satan Night on Bald Mountain scene or whatever. That would be cool if you did. Let me know in the comments because, I feel pretty strong about that one.
All right, so speaking of childhood movies, my number 1 is also from my childhood that I fondly remember.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love watching this one at Halloween.
I already know what this is going to be. Everybody that knows you well knows what this one's going to be.
this one is going to be Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah, so we have very different tastes in Disney movies when it comes to Halloween.
Clearly.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Okay.
So, again, I've loved this movie since I was a kid, and I have subjected almost all of my family members to watching this movie many times over the years. And I could really relate to the kids since, they were the same age as me, and I always loved Angela and Murder, She Wrote, too.
Yeah, you do.
I still do. Plus, I've always loved these kinds of adventures, and the way they combine live action with the Disney-style animation, totally hit the mark with me.
Yeah.
I was prime age for that. It's silly and whimsical and magical, and it's just one of those movies that I particularly love watching around this time of year, especially when I want something a little less dark and creepy, but it still has that witchy, magical vibe to it.
Yeah, I think I and your brother and your mom and
nieces, nephews,
and
everybody.
all of them would have completely guessed that you were going to say this. But I don't think this is an obvious one for most people at all. No, I don't know. Yeah, I get it because it's about a witch and it's about magic and all that stuff, but it's not one that ever screamed Halloween to me necessarily.
Yeah, it's got the black cat and the army that she raises to life out of nothing.
Right.
That was so creepy.
Right. No, I get it. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying that was not obvious to me, But when you bring it up, and again, that's the whole point of this is to
exactly.
just go, oh wow, yeah, okay.
Okay, I can see that working.
Yeah, and yeah, that works. All right, yeah, that's another one. I have not seen that. I actually have it on Betamax.
Do you really?
I have it on Betamax. I still have it in the original cushy case, those old Disney clamshell cases and stuff. Yeah, I still have mine from like the early 80s or late 70s, whenever it came out. I don't know if it's Betamax, so it's probably worth nothing. But but yeah, I still have my copy of it from childhood, but I haven't watched it in years, not least of it because it's on Betamax. But I'm sure it's probably on
I'm sure
Disney
it's on
Plus.
Disney by now, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to check that out again sometime because I loved it when I was a kid. I always loved those Disney movies that had the real life actors and the animation.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved things like Pete's Dragon and Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And then I loved other movies that did that, like Anchors Away with, Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra and stuff when they had Tom and Jerry in there. And I was always lured in by that. I thought that was fascinating when I was a kid, the way they would mix that together.
That's so cool. How is that even possible? They're mingling.
Right, yeah. And it was pretty amazing that they were able to pull that off back then because, that was nowadays you could do that easily.
Yeah.
We could probably do that on our computer. But so anyway, yeah, it's a really cool movie. I'm not the biggest Murder, She Wrote fan, as you know, but Angela Lansbury's cool. And yeah, I think that's a really cool suggestion. I like your list. There's nothing on there.
Mike, I'm taking all of it so far. It depends on what you got left for us here.
Yeah, well, it's funny you would mention that because something tells me that my number one choice is going to be the most polarizing one of this whole episode.
Right, brace yourself, guys.
Yeah,
It's going to get interesting real quick.
Brace yourself. 5-year-old Larry's tastes are coming.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so my number one choice for the most unlikely or untypical Halloween movie selection is a movie that was made for TV, came out on Halloween weekend in 1978 when I was 5 years old. I watched this live. I watched it when it first came on. I was so excited. I was leaping all over the living room. I was being babysat by my aunt at the time, and she was getting mad at me because I wasn't usually a kid that was leaping all over the place and going crazy. I was a pretty chill kid, but I was really worked up about this one. And what is it? My choice is the NBC Movie of the Week that aired October 28th, 1978. I don't even need notes to know that because I was there and I know it. I'm talking about Kiss Meets the Phantom.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
Well, look, again, it came out on Halloween, or it was 2 days, 3 days before Halloween. It was intended to be a Halloween movie. I wouldn't necessarily say it is a Halloween movie. It deals with the rock band Kiss being at Magic Mountain in California. There is a disgruntled worker wizard guy that is really a master of being able to make mechanics and all this stuff, and he feels that he's been completely slighted by the park and his owners, and he hates the fact that Kiss is coming in and stealing all of his thunder, and so he just starts terrorizing the park. So he is the quote-unquote Phantom. It's a stretch. The best part about it is Kiss in this movie actually are like superheroes. They have superpowers. And yes, when I was 5 years old, I firmly and fully believed that Kiss had superpowers. I thought Paul Stanley...
They were superheroes to you
To me,
already.
they were. They really were. They were superheroes to me. Just like there was like Superman and Hulk and Spider-Man and Iron Man, and there was Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley and so on and so forth. Like, I thought they were real life superheroes. I didn't know, you know? So I thought they could do all that. I was fascinated. And plus, here's the thing. Kiss, for a lot of Kiss fans, Kiss and Halloween go together for a lot of obvious reasons, I would say, because they wear makeup and they dress up. Mm-hmm. But also, 2 years before this program came out, on Halloween, there was the famous Paul Lynde Halloween special that aired in October of 1976. And for me, that was like my Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment for all the boomers that grew up, you know, in the 60s and saw that. It was Paul Lynde Halloween special and Kiss. They played 3 songs, and for a lot of us, it was the first way we saw Kiss. And I saw it. I was 3 years old, and then it was just like done. Like,
fan for life.
Like, well, not even just fan for life, but look at me. You know, look who I am. Like, it just set the path in life for me. Between that and an Alice Cooper 8-track, I was done for. So, you know, that started the Halloween thing with Kiss. And then 2 years later, they came out with this movie, Kiss Meets the Phantom. And then by the following Halloween in 1979, I was going out dressed up as Gene Simmons for Halloween. And yeah, it's my groovy costume that I had in my...
Insert picture here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but hey, you know, again, it was the 70s and I was like 6 years old or something like that. It was a great time, but that's why, you know, Kiss and Halloween are just firmly locked together in a lot of fans' minds, but especially in mine as well. And Kiss Meets the Phantom, look, it's not a good movie. I know it's not a good movie. Kiss knows it's not a good movie. Everybody at NBC Studios knew it wasn't a good... Everybody on the planet knows it's not a good movie. But it's a fun, ridiculous, silly movie. It's got great puns and lines in there and stuff. It's got some hilarious scenes, excellent musical sequences. It's so completely of its time. It ranks right up there with like the Star Wars holiday special, that sort of thing. I just love it. And yes, I will watch Kiss Meets the Phantom at other times of the year. I've seen that movie, I think, approximately 4,500 times. But at Halloween time, there's no time like Halloween to watch Kiss Meets the Phantom.
It's the only time.
It's not the only time, but for a lot of people it probably is. But yeah, that's my number one choice. I had to go with that.
Yeah,
one.
it makes sense. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point about it's the only time. Well, you know what? If you're going to watch this awful movie, that is the right time because it's Halloween and you're open to more silly, campy stuff. There you go. Watch it then, you know, and just take it for what it is. And, you know.
Lord knows my list. I can't say anything about silly, ridiculous movies because that's, I think, all my list.
I think a good portion of our lists here, with a few exceptions there's a lot of silliness. And yeah, that's exactly it. Because, you know, like I said earlier, I love watching like the first Halloween movie, you know, with Michael Myers. And I love Salem's Lot and even, you know, again, The Conjuring or Insidious.
Shining.
Or The Shining. Yeah, like stuff like that. Like I love watching those. Dr. Sleep. Like I love watching those movies at this time of year. But they have a dark, you know, just somber mood to them.
Why so serious?
Yeah, very serious. And I need something else to offset it. So, you know, Dr. Sleep, Kiss Meets the Phantom. There you go. There's a yin and yang for you, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, this was fun. This was a really fun topic for us to talk about, just something a little different. And again, the whole point of this is not only to entertain you all with our ridiculous tastes, but we want to hear from you. Let us know what's some of the movies or programs or anything that you always want to watch at Halloween time that aren't necessarily the ones that everybody thinks of.
Not Charlie Brown Halloween.
Yeah, I love Charlie Brown Halloween.
That's a must-go-to for me, too. But that's obvious. The Haunted Mansion, obvious.
Yeah, well, for some people, yeah, I mean, I would say that is. More people should like Haunted Mansion. It's better than you think it is, But anyway, yeah, that's it for us. We hope everybody has an awesome and safe Halloween season. Let us know what you think of the show. Please subscribe and check back because we have a bunch of really cool stuff planned for November. We were talking about Disney and quite a bit in this, and we've got some Disney stuff coming up. We're finally going to delve into some serious Disney watching or rewatching as it is. But we will get into that later. Come join us in the Geeking Squad group on Facebook. It's free and open for everybody to join as long as you're not a dill hole. We welcome you there because we talk about just all this stuff. It's a place for everybody to get together, forget all your differences, and just talk about retro fun stuff and toys and comics and cartoons
TVs and
movies and all that music and all that kind of stuff. We do that there. Come join us and hopefully we'll see you in there. And in the meantime, happy haunting, everybody. We will see you soon.
Beat it, baby. I've been waiting. I couldn't help it. Just cut.
Graham, kid.